Sometimes life places you in situations you never imagined you would agree to. Situations that make you uncomfortable, uncertain, and convinced you simply cannot do them. Have you ever noticed how quickly your mind decides you cannot do something, especially when it feels unfamiliar and uncomfortable? And what if the first reaction, the immediate I can't, isn't the truth at all, but simply a habit you have been carrying for years? Our resistances are quick. They tell us to step back, to say no, to retreat. But sometimes the moment between the instinct and the choices we make is where the transformation lives. Hi, this is Rekha Shah, and welcome to Next Step, a space for those navigating life's in hardest interruptions, loss, change, uncertainty, and figuring things out one imperfect moment at a time. A few months after my husband passed, I was functioning. I was going to work, meeting responsibilities, doing everything that needed to be done. But inside, I felt hollow. So, one of my colleagues, Matuza, certainly became a silent savior during that time. He noticed my struggle long before I admitted it to myself. So, one day, calmly, he mentioned a program that had helped him through a difficult time. If I wanted the information, he said, he would love to share the information. There was no pressure, just an opening. After months of moving through life feeling empty, I knew clearly if I stayed exactly where I was, I would slowly disappear into survival mode. And I didn't want to stay stuck. So I said yes and joined the program. As part of it, we were regularly given exercises that meant to push us beyond, far beyond, when felt familiar and safe. One of our challenges was involved a rope course where we had to walk across a rope from one tower to the other with a buddy. There were three ropes, so the outer ropes were for each partner's outside leg, and the center rope was to be shared between the two partners. So my buddy and I had to support each other the entire way, holding hands while keeping our balance. So the moment I widened my legs to step into position, one foot on each rope, I got a severe leg cramp. I was that out of shape. Immediately I thought, I cannot even stand like this. How am I supposed to walk? On ropes? Almost instantly, the familiar voice appeared. I can do this. Let me down. I told the group leaders I had a severe cramp and they have to let me down. The instructors were calm and firm. Coming down was not an option, they said. Instead, they said, try walking using just one rope. I remember thinking, one rope? One rope. 30 feet in the air. So now, instead of balancing between two ropes for support, I had to place both feet on a single rope and move forward. Every few steps, I asked to be released, and the answer remained firm no. So I continued step by step, fearful, awkward, and resisting. When I finally reached the other side, a wave of disbelief and pride washed over me. Every step I had screamed that I can't. Every muscle had begged me to quit. And yet there I was, standing on the other side, having done what I had convinced myself was impossible. So when I finally stepped down, my legs were shaking, my heart was racing, and I realized something how close I had come to saying no before even trying. And it made me wonder how many things in life we dismiss in exactly the same way, deciding I can't before we even have taken first step. That awareness was more powerful than finishing the rope. When fear rises, it does not mean you are incapable. It means you are standing right at the edge of growth. The only choice that matters is whether you move anyway and discover how strong you actually are. Few days later, um, we were given another assignment. I was placed in a group of 4 women and were told that in 2 hours we had to perform in front of the group on a stage. None of us were dancers with perfectly sculpted bodies made for sequins and hip drops. We were 4 middle-aged women suddenly invited, no, expected to perform a belly dance. The kind usually performed by people half our age and infinitely more flexible. So we looked at each other with that expression that says it all. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Let's just disappear. But then 2 hours is long enough to panic and just too short enough to realize panic is useless. So there was no time to waste. So we got to work. We spent what felt like forever trying to pick a song. Our hips had other ideas, wobbling and refusing to cooperate. Scarves were tied around our waist in the most questionable ways. And we stood a little taller, mostly to convince ourselves that we looked confident. There was laughter, a lot of laughter. There were missteps, moments when we were completely out of sync, but we were committed, and then something shifted. We stopped worrying about how we looked. We stopped evaluating whether we were good enough. There simply wasn't time for self criticism. So, 2 hours later, we walked onto that stage, not because we had mastered belly dance, but because we had decided to show up fully, 100%. If someone had recorded it, they would have seen 4 determined women giving an enthusiastic, slightly chaotic performance. and enjoying every second of it. So, when there is no time to overanalyze, you act. When you act without constant self judgment, you discover freedom. And sometimes freedom doesn't look graceful. It looks like four middle aged women belly dancing with complete sincerity. And that sincerity was powerful. Looking back, that silly, uncomfortable performance nudged me slightly outside the boundaries I had drawn for myself. Nothing dramatic happened in that moment, but something subtle had changed. I had experienced the strange realization that the things we resist most often turn out to be far less terrifying once we actually step into them. Few days later, we were given another um, assignment. We met at Times Square one afternoon, and I don't quite remember everything what we did there, but I'm 100% sure it involved something completely ridiculous. Maybe singing, dancing, or giving some over the top, slightly embarrassing speeches. And then we started walking toward Lincoln Center. The task was take a topless group photo in a park across from Lincoln Center. I I was raised in India in 60s and 70s with very strong sense of modesty. Even the strap of bra showing felt uncomfortable, unappropriate. So I spent the entire walk complaining. I have my value system and I honor them. I'm not doing this. I will not take my shirt off in public. I must have repeated that like 15, 50 times maybe. When we arrived at the park, I saw it was a small, tiny park, and there was almost nobody there. Maybe just a handful of people minding their own business. And that made me pause and debate whether I should actually go through with this assignment. Part of me wanted to refuse. Part of me wondered about the purpose behind the task. And yes, I admit, a little FOMO nudged me forward. Everyone else seemed willing and I didn't want to be left out. So I made a choice. Just before the photograph was taken, I removed my shirt, posed for the picture, and put it back on immediately. It lasted less than a minute, but it represented something huge. I had faced discomfort, navigated my beliefs, and acted consciously rather than reacting automatically. What struck me afterwards was not the photograph itself. It was just the moment before I decided. For a brief second, I noticed my automatic reaction, the quick no that appears without thinking. But this time I paused. And in that pause, I realized something simple but important. Choosing courage can coexist with respecting your values. My first reaction did not have to make the decision. I could stop, think, and choose what to do next. Looking back, those assignments were not random activities. Each one revealed something different. The rope showed me how quickly my mind decides that something is impossible. The belly dance showed me that what happens when you stop worrying about how you look and simply commit to the experience. The Manhattan photo event revealed the power of conscious choice. That our first reaction does not always have to determine our action. Sometimes all it takes is a brief pause, long enough to think, long enough to choose, and suddenly the limits we believed in begin to loosen their grip. Speaking of limits, in the next episode, I want to talk about another assignment that completely turned things upside down for me. The moment I heard about the assignment, my first reaction was immediate: I am out. Every instinct said no. But what happened next created a complete 180-degree shift in how I see challenges, choice, and my own limits. Did I really do it? I can't wait to share that experience with you. Thanks for being here with me. Until next time, keep surprising yourself and discover how capable you are. See you next time, right here, next time. Bye bye.